there's probably going to be many times that you will fail, but don't let that be the end of the road, and really stick with it. And if you do stick with it, you will succeed on the end of it. And when you do succeed, I'm telling you guys, it's way worth it.
Yo, I am very happy to introduce you to my very dear friend, Bucky.
What's up?
I've known Bucky since I was 6 years old. We went to preschool together, and then we were neighbors for a while. And one of my best friends, there's me and 3 other friends, we call each other the Quad Pod.
Yep.
We just have this amazing friendship from childhood, and it's an honor to have Bucky on the channel.
Oh, I appreciate that, dude.
Yeah,
no, it's an honor to be here. I've been a lurker in the comments of your channel for quite some time. So.
And so Bucky has done something really cool and impressive lately, and I was wondering if you wanted to share that journey with my channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and, before we jump into that, make sure to check out and subscribe to Bucky's channel down below, Quad Pod.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Really awesome.
Thank you.
Definitely subscribe.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we were just going to talk about today kind of this 40-day challenge / journey I've been on, which for me has been in relation to cannabis addiction or weed addiction that I kind of have been struggling with, or I've just been trying to get a better balance on in my life for quite some time. And yeah, Luke came down here on the 40th day of that challenge, and
we're in San Diego right now.
Yep, San Diego, and I'm grateful and ecstatic to say that I actually am just completing that 40-day challenge of no cannabis, no weed, no marijuana, kind of nothing at all, just for 40 days to see if I could, you know, get it done and just experience what life is like, just having that not in my system for 40 days. And yeah, it's been a tough journey.
Yeah, but, a huge congrats. That's
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it was difficult, yeah, but
and give some background. So how long have you been using cannabis, and how often, and when did you start? And
yeah, so I started smoking weed when I was probably like 16 or 17 years old, and I am 28 now. And so basically for 10 years, I'd say, about, maybe a little bit more. And it kind of progressed from when I was like 16, 17, 18 as like maybe a once a month type of a thing, like a really like, ooh, like edgy type of a thing, to like, you know, in college, a weekly thing. And then it progressed into, you know, every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it progressed into every day eventually. So then I was smoking or basically getting high like every single night, because for me, I had a really hard time like sleeping, and I had a lot of trouble with anxiety a lot of the time. So I would use it as like a healing, or like a medicine kind of type of a thing for me, which I think it really did, it acted like that for me in a lot of ways. And I would say also that there are a lot of benefits to it in particular ways. But why I wanted to do 40 days without any of it, what I really wanted to do was just be able to experience that, you know, kind of just like reset. Like, what is it like to go back to zero? What am I missing here? I've done this for 10 years, you know, if not every day, nearly every day. And so when you're doing it that much and to that kind of a frequency, you actually begin to lose kind of touch with the base identity of like who you are. At least that's been my experience a little bit. So yeah, that's a little bit of the
yeah. And you've tried to quit several times before and would always slip back into it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say I tried to do a 40-day challenge the beginning of this year. That was, or the beginning of 2020 really. So I basically have spent, you know, people have spent the pandemic doing all sorts of things, but I've spent most of the pandemic and most of my energy and time really focusing on this and really trying to prove to myself more than anybody else. It really had nothing to do with anybody else, but to prove to myself that I could just go 40 days. I had the mental fortitude, I had the willpower, I had that strength in myself to be able to do this. And, you know, to be honest, love, I absolutely love weed, and I love a lot of things about it. So for me, this was very much equivalent to trying to stop doing something you love doing for 40 days. And, you know, I mean, things can become addictions. I definitely think I'm still would say that I have an addictive type of a personality, especially towards weed in particular. But, you know, there's a really weird line with love and addiction, and, you know, what is healthy and what is not healthy. I think these lines get blurred really easily. And so what I think a 40-day challenge, a 40 days stopping it really did for me was it really showed me those boundaries a lot better, and showed me what a healthy relationship with it could be and what an unhealthy one it looks like, I think. So
that's awesome. And I feel like, especially with weed or marijuana, because it is more nuanced, it's not clear cut, good or bad, or there could be little benefits. I feel like lots of people do it regularly, but then they don't. They could always say, well, I could always quit when I want to, but they've never tried like 2 weeks without it.
That was me.
Or 40 days, yeah.
Totally.
So I think that takes a lot of self-reflection, and discipline and mindfulness to be like, hey, I'm going to take 40 days and not do it for 40 days and see how I feel and experience that baseline again. Yeah, and how would you say now that you're on day 40, how would you say you're feeling? What's changed over the 40 days?
Yeah, I think, well, to just start on the first point you were making about a lot of people like to think, and this was me included, you know, weed can be viewed as kind of a lesser type of a drug, or a lesser addiction, or something that actually arguably, and I think it does, like, has a lot of benefits to it. So when you have something like weed in particular, these lines get blurred, you know, this line of like, am I harming myself by doing this? What am I doing? Like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? These lines get blurred. And so when you set out like, okay, I'm going to do this for 40 days. So like, I just had that idea in like last year. I was like, I'm going to not do it for 40 days. And then I was like, oh, what? Like, I can't do this. Like, I was trying, and I would try, you know, I'd be like, okay, next week on a Monday, like that'll be the day that I stop. And then Monday would come around, and then I would just, you know, I would just do it again. And that happened for a year. Like, I spent a year of failing, like a year of trying and failing, going 2 days failing, 3 days failing, binging for a week. You know, there's all sorts of these, like, it's crazy. And your mind, it's really interesting with an addiction in particular. Your mind knows you the best because it is you, right? And so it knows all your weak spots, and it knows all the tricks, and it knows all the things to say that will like, come on, man, it's just one more day. Like, you can always just do it tomorrow, or it has benefits. Think about it. Like, you've been like, it's 2 a.m. and you haven't been able to fall asleep all night. Just like go and smoke a little joint. It'll make you be able to fall asleep way easier. So there's all these mental tricks. But to answer your question about how I'm feeling now, and what it did was it taught me a lot about, first off, I was blaming weed for a lot of things that I now realize I just need to take responsibility for and just do. And I would say like, oh, the reason I'm not doing that is because I'm getting high or I'm smoking. And if you just would stop smoking or getting high, then, you know, you'd be able to do these things. And it's, to a certain extent, yes, but more so, you can use these addictions as scapegoats for things that you're not doing. Yeah. That's probably the main thing I've learned. The other thing I've learned,
it's like peeling back an onion.
There's all these layers. It's like taking a master's degree in yourself. That's what these things are like. It's like the amount of things that you learn about yourself by just like challenging yourself to do these things. And I mean, for you with this channel in particular, with porn addiction, even if somebody has never been able to do it, you know, like even for a very long streak, if you just set out for like a small digestible streak that you can do, like 40 days or a week, or just set your goal that is something achievable. Like, the amount you learn in that will give you the energy to attain the larger goals in the future.
And it gives you so much clarity and self-esteem, and
totally. But the other things that you learn is what I call these like kind of neurological pathway kind of things, where you do something so many times for so long that it becomes like an unconscious part of yourself. So like, you know, if you walk the same road to go to like school or to go to work like every day, if you go on the same path, like that path just becomes like an unconscious automatic part of your life. And so, but what these like 40-day challenges do is they allow you to go on a new path to school. You know, every once in a while, just switch it up, you know? And when you switch it up, in
our friend group, we jokingly call Bucky the connector, because he always has a good way of putting things into great metaphors. Yeah, it's true. Like, it's like these brain pathways, but a good way to think about it is like, your path to work or school. We get these ingrained habits, and we go into autopilot and zombies, and a year turns into 5 years, turns into a decade, and then we go, whoa, like, what's it like to drive on a different road? Whoa, I can't do it. Like,
yeah, and you'll notice that when you try and drive on that new road or walk that new path to school, it actually brings consciousness into yourself, because you're having to use more brain power to analyze this new place that you're in, right? So it's the same thing with like a weed addiction or a porn addiction or a food addiction or whatever your addiction might be. When you attempt a 40-day whatever, the reason why you feel so much anxiety and pain and frustration, and why, like me, you're most likely going to fail 50 times before you succeed and finally get to the promised land. But why that happens is because you're pulling something out from your unconscious and becoming aware of it. And that awareness of this thing causes friction in your mind and in your life. You're like, whoa, I don't want to, this is all way too much new things all at once. Like for me with weed in particular, I would use it to go to bed every night. So I forgot how to like go to bed. Like I didn't like I didn't know how to go to bed anymore. Like I would have massive anxiety panic attacks around like 10 p.m. every night because I like didn't remember how to fall asleep without just like
crazy
smoking and just passing out, you know, and just instantly knocked out.
Like last night, were you able to fall asleep? Like now that's been 40 days.
Oh yeah.
When did that switch happen?
So I would say the first like 3 days are miserable.
Yeah.
But I would say about a week to 10 days in, there's a substantial like lightening. It's almost like, again, you have to find your new path to school. So like that first time you walk that new path to school, you're lost and you're probably going to be 20 minutes late to school because you went down a cul-de-sac and went into a dead end, you know?
Yeah.
But it's on that like 10th day of going down that new path to school, you've got it down. You know when the stoplight's going to turn green, you know what time you have to leave to get there at 1 minute right before, like you start to get it down more. And so for me, like I'd say about the 10th day with weed, it was like, okay, my body's relaxing a little bit. It knows that like sleeping isn't a big deal. Like, you know, it really relates to acceptance. I think that's the big word, is just being like, when I would go to bed at night, just accepting, like, you know what, you might not fall asleep for a few hours. That's okay. It's okay, man. That's not a big deal. Like, what's going to happen in the morning? Nothing. Nothing. It's not a big deal. Just, if you fall asleep now, awesome. If it takes you 2 hours to fall asleep, that's also awesome. There's no need to be anxious about this, you know?
In some ways, could that have been an excuse to have weed all the time? Oh, this will help me sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's like excuses. What excuses are you blaming the weed on, but also what excuses are you using for the weed?
Exactly.
Both ways. That's interesting.
And so by doing these 40-day kind of...
You have clarity on all that. Yeah.
Yes. Again, it redefines the boundaries. So you can see like, oh, all of my anxiety about sleep was always just bullshit. Like it was always just like, I was just using that as an excuse, you know?
Do you think there was a little bit of a physical withdrawal? Like,
oh, totally.
Weed? Because, there is, I guess, a debate whether is weed physically addicting or is it just psychologically addicting?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think it depends on how much you are doing. For me personally, I was essentially having like 20 milligram edibles every night, which is pretty excessive.
That's not right, yeah.
Which is pretty excessive. But when you're doing like that amount, I did have physical withdrawals. They weren't like debilitating to the extent, like they weren't like, they weren't debilitating, but it was more like I would have like night sweats where like when I would go to bed at night, like I would, for the first like 3 nights, I would like sweat a lot in bed. I know that's probably too much information, but that was one of them.
Yeah.
And then Yeah, that was, I would say that's that was the main physical one. There was like a slight headache for maybe a day, but that was about it. Other than that, the physical withdrawals weren't that
so you
bad.
think it was mainly psychological?
Mostly, yes. And the psychological aspect, I can't, again, I failed for almost a year before I was able to successfully do this for 40 days. So
on this last attempt, what was different than all the previous attempts? Why did you make it this time?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Part of it, I'm sure, is every single time you failed, you learned some lesson and got some calibration.
Yes.
And, that was the excuse I used this time.
Yes. There was, I think you kind of nailed it there. It was about, I basically had to go down, I had to like figure out all my own mind's psychological traps that I was setting for myself. So like I would find all these excuses. There was always an excuse. Yeah. There was always a reason why it wasn't a big deal to just do it this one time. It's not a big deal. You can always do it the next time. And I remember the most crushing defeat that I had was I was like, okay, it's about to be 2021, January 1st, 2021, like a new year. You have to do it on the first, like you've been trying to do this for a year. This has to be the day, right? And I got to January 1st and I just ate another edible. Like I didn't even and then the next morning I was so upset with myself. But I think that was really what started the real fire, where it was like, because I had planned for 2 months before then. I was like, it's okay, you can get high for these 2 months and just wait till January 1st and you can try it again then.
That's very common with porn addiction.
You'll set
Starting my birthdays.
Yeah.
It'll be 90 days on January 1st.
You'll pick a random day that seemingly has...
make the changes now.
Yeah, it's like this is a significant day that will make it easier for me to stop on that day. No, that's not, no.
Yeah, it's the significant time is now.
Yeah, and so I actually, when I ended up stopping, was just a random day when I had just went back to the dispensary store and had just bought an entire, I spent $60 on more edibles, and I had one of them the next day, and then the day after that I was like, I'm done. And before that I had taken all my edibles and I'd thrown them down the toilet and then I went and bought another. So I even tried I tried to monetarily inflict monetary pain on myself, and that even didn't work. So it really is just something inside of you where you're gonna, I honestly feel you just have to
hit that breaking point where you're like,
yes,
I just gotta fucking do
it. Where it was January 1st, it didn't happen on January 1st, and then I was out there and then just buying.
A year of doing it.
Yeah, and I think I ended up stopping on January 18th or something. But it was a random Tuesday. There was no specialness about it. It was just dude, it was just you get to a point where you just are you have to do this now. There's no option. It's 40 days. You can do 40 days. And then guess what? If you do 40 days and you get to the end, you can come right back to it if that's really what you want. But you promised 40 days to yourself. Yeah. At least prove to yourself that you can do that. And so that's why I think these digestible sizes are the key.
Yeah. And you were saying that it was starting to take a hit to your self-esteem because you kept having this goal, 40 days not hitting.
Yep.
And then to achieve that, separate from the whole physical or psychological stuff, but the self-esteem of just accomplishing that goal.
Totally.
Or not being able to accomplish it and then being that's huge. You were saying that before we filmed. That was, I thought that's one really important thing about porn addiction too. Yeah.
Absolutely. The confidence, again, this is one of those things I thought, because I had a severe downturn in my confidence and my self-esteem. And I thought that was purely related to the weed. And I think it partly was, but what I realized what it more so was about was that I was setting goals for myself that I wasn't able to align my life with. I was setting goals for, come on, dude, you can do 40 every morning. I'd wake up, come on, 40 days. Why haven't you done it yet? 40 days. And then I would fail. And then 40 days, fail. 40 days, fail. 40 days, fail. Every time you do that, you're chipping away a little bit of your self-confidence. But what that actually does is you get to such a low point eventually by doing that creates the spring that allows you to actually eventually do it. So it's kind of this weird porn
addiction.
So it's
we just get disgusted with it almost, or disgusted.
That's exactly exactly right. And then but the beautiful part,
which is leverage.
The beautiful part that comes from it though is that when you finally are like, you don't have that self-esteem, you don't have that confidence, and then you finally are able to do 40 days. Or, you know, for me it was like, once I got past a week, like 10 days where I went like 2 weekends without doing it, I was like, dude,
You got the momentum. Yeah.
look at, dude, you're doing it, dude. You did 10 days. Like,
Yeah.
5 days ago, I would have never thought you could do 10. And then you get to like 15 days, and then you get to 20 days, and you're like, whoa, like, I'm actually doing that. And then once you get to like 20, halfway through or whatever, it's like, then your confidence just like skyrockets, and your self-esteem skyrockets, and your energy skyrockets. And, you know, I was so motivated. I was like doing all these like arts and crafts and making things, and all these like pent up energy that I like had stored in my body that I wasn't like acting upon came out, and it was beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and yeah, I could feel your mental clarity seems sharper.
Yeah.
It's like your thought to expression, the clarity in like instant.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think
like you're vibrating in the more your frequency that's like clear.
Yeah, I resonate with that. I think that's absolutely correct. I think, like I said, the biggest thing that it did was I had forgot how to be me in a lot of ways. You know, like I had forgotten how to fucking fall asleep. It's part of my language, but I had forgotten how to go to sleep at night. Like, let alone so when you like lose that intrinsic of a part of yourself, like even
for
just
so long.
yeah, like you.
And now you said you're having lots of dreams too.
Yes, but it's like literally like losing a part of your identity. It's really what happens. It's really what it is. It's a exercise in identity. That's what addiction is all about. It's all about identity, and
go into that more, because you've talked about that before, and that was really awesome when you broke that down.
Yeah. I think addiction in particular goes hand in hand with identity in many ways. Addiction really is a grasping for meaning and for purpose. That's really what it's all about. Is you are finding comfort in something that is filling a void of purpose and meaning that you are lacking in your life. Whether that's, you know, whatever the addiction might be. And oftentimes what addictions bring with them is a community of fellow addicts. Or people who are, so, you know, I mean, I also used to be addicted to cigarettes, and I stopped smoking cigarettes a long time ago now. But with a cigarette addiction, that brings a community that's a whole thing. It's, you know, you're at a party and hold on, everybody, I'm going to go outside with the smokers. And there, you know, there's 4 people outside smoking cigarettes, and it's a way to talk to people, and it, you know, loosens your mind up a little bit to have communications with people. You know, and so with weed, there's a huge community around weed. And every, like, all the music I listen to, it's all like influenced by weed. Like, I love hip hop music, like everything, you know, it's all, so it's like, it's tied into all these things that are parts of your identity and what makes you feel like you. And so that's all part of what goes into this. By taking this away, you also feel like a part of yourself is dying. But what you realize once you get 40 days into it is that there's an underlying you that's still you, that still loves hip hop, that still loves all these things, that, you know, you can still go outside and talk to people. You don't have to smoke a cigarette. You know, you can still enjoy these communities without having to be in the addictive aspect of it. Albeit it makes it maybe a little bit more difficult to resonate on their level if other people are in an addictive state, or you know, partaking in something that alters their consciousness in particular. But addiction is all about identity. It's all about the things that make you feel comfortable in the things that you attach to. It's all about identity and attachment. It really is. So
this is who I am. I'm the guy who smokes weed before I go to bed.
Exactly. I'm the guy who, you know, it's everything. Like, I'm the guy who listens to music that, like, to Bob Marley. I'm the guy who, you know, anything.
All the friends doing it.
Exactly. And then when
you want to hit the bowl.
Exactly. And especially if you're, you know, with a group of friends who are doing it.
Did you have to put up any boundaries with any friends?
Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult. Yeah, it's very, the friend aspect is very difficult. Because you know, there's a lot of people who, I mean, even with alcohol in particular, there's a lot of people who've never gone out and socialized without drinking alcohol. Like, they've never just gone sober to a place to talk to people before. Like, it's like an intrinsic part of socializing. And so there again is a dependency relationship. There again is an attachment and an identity former. And so what that does is it actually makes it so you've never actually connected at your true self level. And so when you have friends,
there's a crutch there.
Yeah. So when you have friends that, you know, a lot of your friendship is based on,
and they see you in that old identity. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a lot of your friendship is based on, you know, maybe drinking alcohol or smoking or, you know, going out to the bar or, you know, when you take that away, even if you might be super confident in yourself and in your doing of it, the other person might not be. So your friends might not be accepting of you necessarily if, you know, you want to go out to the bar but you don't want to drink anything. We all can envision what that experience is like. Even if you haven't done it before, it's not a fun experience generally. Because, you know,
it's like joked about, but
well, like, you feel like the freaking, you know, everybody, you're like the lame person, you know. You're like the, come on, what are you doing?
Sometimes there's some feelings of judge. Oh, does Buck think he's better for not having a drink? And,
totally. And like, that's also something you have to work through. And it's not about being better than anybody.
It's about yourself and your values, but to navigate that socially and be able to communicate those boundaries when those social temptations come in.
Yeah, and I think with people, I mean, one of the things I had to learn in this whole process was that better than thou kind of principle. It's like, you have to pump the brakes on yourself if you ever are in a place where you're thinking you're better than somebody else because you have stopped doing something and they haven't.
Yeah.
That's not what it's about. It's completely a personal, individual personal thing. So even with porn addiction, it's not, haha, I stopped porn addiction and look at all these other people who didn't and I'm better than all of them. No, you did it for yourself because you wanted to feel confident and powerful in your own individuality and your own reasons. It has nothing to do with anybody else.
Definitely. And I feel like whenever there is a pride, there's always a fall after that somehow.
Absolutely.
Like in the past, I'm like, hey, look, I'm on 90 days of no fap.
Oh yeah, and then you'll binge you'll have a nice binge spree for a month. Yes.
The motivation has to always come from within. For the sustainable results.
Yeah, and you have to be, again, it's a confidence builder too, because every time you're able to
you're learning to assert your own identity.
And that identity that you're asserting is actually you, like truly you, instead of an identity that's being conformed by others and manipulated and not truly in control. You're not in control of that other identity. You are in control of the one that is the little voice inside your head desperately saying, no, don't do it. But again, to also say something though, another thing I learned is that, like, these things aren't, at least for weed, I don't view weed as a bad thing. And I still plan on in the future, I think, partaking in weed in special occasions at special times and for special reasons. And for example, if I'm at a music festival with my friends, like, I probably will smoke a joint. Like, I think that's a very sacred and beautiful time to do that. You know,
what's tricky about weed is that there's more gray area with it.
Like, I don't think I would ever smoke a cigarette again. That's a different one. So again, all these things are bifurcated and differentiated, and you know, certain
weed by yourself. How often do you think you'll do that moving forward?
So I've always thought that I would allow myself to do it maybe once a week on like a Friday or Saturday. That's really my ultimate goal, is to be able to use it on a Friday or Saturday as like a treat at the end of the week. And like, I'll know if I'm, you know, it'll be obvious if I'm doing it more than once a week, then I'll blatantly know that I've fallen back into like kind of the area that I was before. But I think it's key, like, it's important to do like maybe a 40-day cleanse. This is with weed in particular.
So you really know how is it actually affecting you.
So I think it's important to do like maybe 40-day cleanses, but I also don't think it's, maybe with weed in particular, or certain things, like with alcohol also, I would say, like, I think you still also have to enjoy life, you know. I think there's I don't think you should just like avoid the pleasures of life just for the sake of trying to be, and I mean, I'm talking just for myself here, but that for me, I think it's
the true pleasures of your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if the majority of your life is being covered by other dependencies, that's where the problem is. If every day you wake up and the only thing you can think about is porn, that's, you know, that needs to be addressed, I think. If I wake up every day and all I can think about is I can't wait till it's, you know, 4:20 so I can get high, you know, that's a problem. I'm not actually living life. I'm just living life for pleasure experience at the end of the day. Like, I'm not thinking about anything else. So it's just knowing those boundaries, you know, knowing when you're going into the land of blurry vision, into the land of you're not living your true identity, you're becoming a co-opted identity. But at the same time, you gotta let loose every once in a while. You gotta, you know, have a drink with your...
letting loose after succeeding at the goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when doing alcohol out of a celebration, like champagne and accomplishing something, it's very different than doing alcohol because it's every Friday night.
That's exactly right.
Such a different.
If it's you know, every day you're doing something, or every week you're doing something, you know, whatever it might be. That's
your relationship with it.
It's all about. It's really about the purpose and the meaning behind it. If you're doing it something with intention that has purpose and meaning, then I think it's something to maybe, for example, like if it's Christmas and you're with your family, right, and everybody's having a glass of wine. Like, that's fine. Just have a glass of wine, you know, enjoy yourself.
Someone's like an alcoholic. No. There's always nuances in individual cases.
Absolutely. You know, for me with weed in particular, like, I don't have an addiction really with alcohol, but for me with weed in particular, I am a little bit wary of even doing it again at all, because I know how slippery that slope is for me. But I've set up an alarm system where I know if I've done it more than once a week, the alarm is going off, and I'm gonna have to do another 40 days. That's how it's gonna work.
Nice.
So
this has been really awesome. I think this has been an excellent, like, nuanced conversation about a weed addiction in particular. So much, I think, material is kind of very one-sided, but we hit lots of nuanced points, and I think this is really cool.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
To wrap up, if there's anyone else struggling with problematic weed use, what's your final thoughts for them? Because this video is going to inspire lots of people to do a 40-day cleanse. I could tell. What's your final words to that person?
My final words to anybody who is interested in this is, I would say, if you are a regular weed smoker, to just challenge yourself to try this. And I think you'll be surprised at how difficult it may first come to be. But I promise you that if you do succeed in doing 40 days, or even 30 days, or even if it's even a smaller amount of time for you, whatever seems digestible, I think you'll be really surprised at what you learn from it. It's mostly a learning experience. And what I would say is, there's probably going to be many times that you will fail, but don't let that be the end of the road, and really stick with it. And if you do stick with it, you will succeed on the end of it. And when you do succeed, I'm telling you guys, it's way worth it. And it makes, if you want to go back to it after doing 40 days, it makes it going back to it 10 times better, because you have a much better appreciation for it. You know, it's like not eating ice cream.
It's a healthy relationship instead of a codependent relationship.
Absolutely. It's the difference between eating ice cream every day and having ice cream once a month. You know, when you eat ice cream once a month, it's super special. And
link to Bucky's channel down below. Definitely make sure to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. Comment your thoughts below. Do you have a weed addiction? What are your thoughts on weed? Comment below your situations. We'd both be curious.
Absolutely.
How all of you are doing, and thanks for watching.
Thank you all.
Peace. Awesome.
That shit was
Loved
dope.
it.
Hell yeah.